Watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GBNews,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat. Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. I campaigned in the largest democratic vote in our island story. I know this country has so much to be proud of. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better. The wisdom of the nation is in its people. Vox Populi, Vox Dei. That's why I'm joining the People's Channel. Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Welcome back to GB News. Good evening to you. I'm Aaron Armstrong in the GB Newsroom. The Home Secretary has been warned sexual predators do not come from just one background after she singled out British Pakistani men as a particular concern. The NSPCC says focusing solely on race could create new blind spots when tackling child sexual abuse. The Prime Minister is expected to reveal a raft of new measures to protect young women and girls tomorrow, and has promised political correctness will not hinder a crackdown on grooming gangs. The plans include using ethnicity data to support investigations and deploying special officers to assist local police forces. A prominent Russian military blogger has been killed in an explosion at a cafe in St. Petersburg. Vladimir Tatarsky was a vocal supporter of Russia's war in Ukraine, who reported from the front line, working closely alongside invading forces. The incident appears to be the second assassination on Russian soil of a figure closely associated with the conflict. At least 25 people were injured. No one has yet claimed responsibility for the blast. Two British men being detained by the Taliban in Afghanistan have been in contact with their families. A spokesman for Kevin Cornwell and a second unnamed man says they've had an emotional call during which they've claimed to have been treated fairly. They've been in custody since January. It's unclear, though, how long the third man, the so-called danger tourist Miles Routledge, has been held. The government says it's in negotiations regarding their safety. And holidaymakers hoping to cross the Channel are still experiencing long delays at the Port of Dover, which are likely to go through the night. Some people have been waiting for around 8 hours. It's understood all coaches have now finally reached the port, but passengers still face a few more hours to have their passports checked. Port officials have blamed delays on a lengthy immigration process. Suella Braverman has rejected suggestions Brexit is responsible. And 29 people are now known to have died after a series of tornadoes swept through the United States. Officials say more than 40 tornado reports were made across 7 states in the South and Midwest on Friday night. Homes have been destroyed and cars have been upended. An entire school in Arkansas was ripped apart. President Joe Biden has declared a major disaster in the state, ordering federal support to help with the recovery. TV, online, DAB plus radio and on TuneIn as well. This is GB News. Now it is time for headliners.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. I'm Josh Howie, and joining me to give Monday's papers a jolly good seeing to is my trusty working-class chum Francis Foster, and one of those Yanks we've all heard so much about, Catherine Henson. Hello, how are you both?
Very well. How are you, Joshy?
I'm good. You guys had a nice weekend?
Indeed, we did. It was very nice.
Oh, did you confirm with Catherine already? You're speaking for Catherine straight away.
That's the thing. I just got back from Bali, so
she did.
I did. I had
a great humble brag there.
Well, I did have a good weekend, but now I'm back here. So.
What you mean here, literally?
Yes.
This is the face. You get off the air. Yeah.
And
How
I
was
see
it
you.
coming through customs?
Sorry?
We let you back in? Everything was okay?
Well, I am here now, but I don't know if it's legally.
But did you sort of like drop the... No, haven't you seen me on GB News? They're like straight through. Oh, GB News.
Yeah, no customs for me.
Totally fine. What were you doing in Bali? Just holidaying as you do?
Yes, trying to decide what I'm doing with my life, so...
OK, well, you've come to the perfect place. Right, let's take a look at the papers first. We are going to go straight to the Times. Child abuse gangs fed up by political correctness. The Telegraph, ethnicity of grooming gangs cannot be ignored. Police told. The Daily Mail, millions of drivers stuck in parking app hell. Financial Times, all producers spring surprise output cut of more than 1 million barrels a day. The Metro, the Easter holiday delays. Finally, the Daily Star, I love you, terminate marriage. Jealous psychobot tells happily married man to leave. Do we even need to finish reading that? Okie dokie. Well, look, let's kick off first with the Times. What do you think, Francis?
Well, the Times leads with child abuse gangs fed by political correctness, and this is Rishi Sunak. Will say today that the grooming gangs in Rotherham and all across the north and also parts of the south and the west were... The reason they're allowed to proliferate is because people didn't want to call them out, people didn't want to report them because they were scared of appearing racist.
But you don't have that fear, do you?
No, I don't have that fear, mate, which is why I have that voice and I'm here. But people have also said that Suella Braverman in particular is weaponising this issue, making it all about race, because sex offenders come from all parts of our culture.
Yeah, I mean, it really has kicked off today. I don't know if you were still on the flight when you got off, Catherine, but it's been kicking off on Twitter, and that's like the worst kind of Twitter storm. And... It's, basically accusing her of essentially, dog whistling and racism and whatnot. What about all the white people who are also pedos and whatnot? But...
That's enough about the BBC, mate.
Yeah, fair enough. And now it seems like Rishi Sunak is doubling down on this. But do you think that they have a case or not in terms of accusing her of dog whistling?
I mean, I think if anybody's covering up any type of sexual abuse of children, it might as well be explored.
Oh, no,
yeah.
Absolutely, and that would be my thought as well. Yeah. Exactly, the point is, let's deal with what is obviously an utterly heinous crime and whatever it takes to do that, and wherever that goes.
Of course, and this is a problem, is when you tackle a crime such as this one and you speak honestly and candidly about it, then invariably people are going to get on board and they're going to say things, oh, you're making this about race, you're making this about race because you're a racist. But the reality is, unless you talk about it in a frank, open and honest manner, then we are never going to be able to solve this, and we're never going to protect the next generations of children from ensuring that this doesn't happen to them. Whereas if we sweep it under the carpet, then all that will happen is that it will continue to be perpetuated in the dark.
Yeah, well, it's... and then you had Labour here saying the package was hopelessly inadequate, belated and narrow. And you sort of feel like, look, traditionally I've been a Labour supporter, apart from a few ups and downs in recent years. But it's a little bit like, well, guys, come on, Rotherham, these were Labour councils, arguably, that led to this, perpetuated to decades of allowing these some grooming gangs. Well, no, when I say grooming gangs, I mean not that grooming gangs all happen to be Asian, but the percentage of those particular grooming gangs were. And then, of course, people start going, well, look at this report here, and it says that the grooming gangs are majority white. Well, of course, we live in a majority white country. But Lisa Nandy, who I voted for to be the Labour leader, she seems to sort of make a lot of sense, don't you think, with what she says here about how she does call it out, and she says that, look, there are particular issues within the Kurdish and the Pakistani gangs in parts of the country, but we also need to look at the bigger picture as well.
Well, of course, and I do think Lisa is right on this particular issue. The problem is that this has been such a taboo subject for so long and has been happening for around about 30 years that is it any surprise that people want to talk about it when the reality is people have been too scared to for a long old time. And as a result of that, you can't blame people for wanting to discuss this subject in the open now. And I don't think it's good enough to say, look, yes, but what about this? Because the reality is this needs to be talked about, and we need to ensure that it needs to be stamped out and that no young person is ever put through these heinous crimes again.
Absolutely. And just one final thing is just in terms of, I mean, what Suella Braverman was saying was, the point was that political correctness had allowed these crimes to continue, and also had allowed, like, for example, the bomber in Manchester to not be so... It's up to the authorities to sort of get over themselves, I guess. This fear that's been sort of become part of these institutions, they have to do their job and get over it, wherever that takes them.
Yeah, and they need to be brave. And look, this is a thing about being a leader. This is a thing about being a politician. It means that you're going to be disliked. It means that people are going to say nasty things about you. It means that sometimes people are going to misrepresent you. But here's the thing. You want to be in power. You want to be in charge. You want to be Home Secretary or whatever other title it may be. Then you've got to be prepared to take and accept that flag.
It sounds like it's just like being a GB News presenter, but without any power.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that what you're saying then? Catherine, what are you
Well, I guess it's just, I don't know if you can tell from my accent, but I'm not from here. So I come
You're
from...
Welsh?
Yeah, exactly. So I come from a place where Law and Order Special Victims Unit has had like 30 seasons. So I feel like this has been in conversation where I come from for a very long time. So I'm learning just through this dialogue. Is it just something that politically is, from what you said, people have been afraid to bring to the forefront?
Yeah.
I mean, I find that alarming, so I think whatever, like you said earlier, whatever you have to do to kind of...
Deal with it,
Start dealing with it.
Well, look, let's talk about something a lot more safe, I guess. Brexit! There's the other story there in the Times. Brexit clash of rules are blamed for Dover chaos. Who do you think? Is it Brexit? Is it not? What's going on here? Come on, Francis.
Well, the reality is with all of these discussions is that you've got one side versus the other, and what gets lost in the middle is truth and nuance, because the Remainers want to say everything is the fault of Brexit, and the Brexiteers want to go, no, this isn't.
I do want to say that.
Yeah, exactly. The reality is it's a little bit of... Brexit hasn't helped, let's be honest. It's made these things slower, it's made them more laborious, it's prevented, the free flow of goods. So it has made it, but it's not just about that. There's numerous factors involved in it. It's the fact that people are wanting to go away before the Easter break.
How dare they?
Yeah, exactly. It's the fact that, there's been backlogs to do with strikes, etc., etc. So it's a confluence of factors.
And I believe it's going to get worse. Is that right, Catherine? I don't know if you saw that.
Supposedly, but I think the real tragedy of this is the thousands of children heading to the Alps on skiing trips were deeply affected.
I know, they've missed a day of skiing.
My God, do you get to go to the Alps?
The people I feel sorry for, of course, the teachers. You used to be a teacher. You imagine being stuck in a bus for 24 hours. Terrible. Look, let's move on to the next paper, the Daily Telegraph, Catherine.
So we have quite a few headlines here. There was a bomb in a statue that kills Kremlin propagandists. I'm going to butcher this name.
OK.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Vladimir Tartsky.
Now, could you do that in a Russian accent, please?
I don't want to be cancelled today.
You're allowed to do Russian. That's the one accent.
Wait,
you may speak the Russian accent. You are allowed to do Russian accent.
What about Italian? I thought it was Italian. Italian's the one you can do?
Well, you can't do Italian, no.
Can't you? What about the Don Mio ads?
Oh, well, fine. I mean, if you're selling pasta or pizza, of course you are. That's how you get a free pass.
I could do his name in Italian, the Russian name in Italian.
Do what you need to do.
Meatball. OK, Vladimir Tartsky. I'm not going to do it. He was killed by a bomb hidden inside a statue that was handed to him. He was the only person killed in the blast, although 15 other people were injured.
Oh, no.
But that's karma, I guess, right?
Yeah. But also, if someone gave me a statue, I'd be like, this is deeply suspicious. Who is giving someone else a statue?
And also, did they never read The Legend of the Trojan Horse? Never trust people giving you things.
So that's a horse, mate.
Yeah, but it's still a statue. Well, it was a symbol, whatever it was. Anyway.
But maybe he left on a high of being like, a gift.
Yeah.
And no, maybe. Well, obviously, don't give anything to the funeral, I think.
Yeah.
That would be deeply suspicious. There's another story here. Phone alerts will cause chaos.
Yes, there are plans to test a mobile firm emergency siren, and it might bring chaos. Just so you know, you should put it in your calendars if you're going to be driving. There's going to be a 10-second blast on Sunday, April 23rd, as part of a nationwide test of the system. But they're concerned that the potential consequences have not been thought out thoroughly about this alarm going off while people are driving.
What's going to happen, Francis?
Well, it just sounds like another terrible idea. It's probably going to cause multiple pile-ups. And in another couple of years, it's not going to matter because we're all going to vote Tory again.
OK. But
they can do whatever they want.
OK, fine. Look, let's go to the Daily Mail next, Francis.
The Daily Mail have gone with actually a story that I think is very important, particularly for Daily Mail readers who are obviously all over the age of 70. Millions of drivers are stuck in parking app hell. And what has happened is councils up and down the country are getting rid of pay and display, which is the old method of you go to the little machine, you put 60p in, you get a little ticket.
60p, I don't know which part of the country you live in.
Somebody lives in a posh...
That's about 3 minutes around where I live.
Yeah, well, that's because you live in a posh part of North London, Josh.
It's not that posh.
Yeah, trust me, it is. I've been there. But now what all the councils are doing... It's posh. Yeah, of course it is. All the councils are doing is they're doing it via an app because they're saying, oh, you know, this is environmentally friendly. This is a much more efficient way of doing it.
How's it more environmental? What, because it saves the tiniest bit of paper?
Yeah, exactly. And the sticky plastic. Oh. But the problem comes is with older people who don't know how to use apps, who may not have access to a smartphone. Effectively, they're being isolated from society because they've got no way of paying this.
But they really shouldn't be leaving their homes, right?
Yeah, of course not. Did the pandemic teach them nothing?
Yeah. So, what do you think about this? Do you know? Have you seen a coin? When was the last time you had coins in your hand?
I don't know what a coin is, but I feel like
I got a few thrown at me last night in my gig.
I feel like this is a ploy to keep old people off the road.
Oh, really? You think this is it? Just sort of age them out?
Yeah, we're going to age you out. You shouldn't be on the driving anyway.
I mean, it might backfire because for me, it's like you get there, you park, you download the app, you mess around, and then it sounds like you had it, but it has your previous car registration, and then you're doing the thing. It takes about half an hour, and then you just got to leave anyway, so you just don't pay.
Exactly. Or what you do is you think you pay, and then in about a couple of days, they come back to you and go, here's a £90 fine.
Yeah, well, that's it. Now, normally we finish this section with a little bit of fun with the star. We're going to go to the next best thing, the Financial Times.
Oil producers' spring surprise output cut of more than 1 million barrels a day. Francis, you seem oily. Do you have anything to say about this?
Right, You're not the first woman to say that to me, Catherine.
That was, by the way, the cheesiest thing we've had on Headliners before.
Yeah. So this is a major problem because the Saudi Arabia is reducing output by 500,000 barrels per day, in Iraq by 211,000. The UAE, Kuwait, Algeria and Oman are also making cuts, and particularly when we have got an energy crisis, this is literally the last thing that we need. This is going to drive up prices further. It is terrible, particularly when our economy is so based on oil. We need oil to drive our economy. Businesses are hanging on by a thread when it comes to paying energy bills. This is the last thing that we need.
Why are they doing it? They're just doing it for the money?
Well,
they're doing it to mess with us?
Well, no, they're not. They said that they're cutting output to support market stability.
Yeah, that means they're messing with us.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, Josh, they can mess with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can, and they are the ones in control of oil production. And so they can choose to do with it what they want.
What you're saying is we need to invade?
Yes, we do. Let's have another...
Is that what you're saying?
Yes, because
Find
Iraq...
some evidence.
Yes, because Iraq went so well, we need to replicate it.
I see. Fine. And what influence do you think this might have with Russia in terms of their output? Of course, they produce a lot of oil, Catherine. Do you think this is going to help their cause in some way?
I love that you're looking at me to answer this question.
Well, you know what? I thought she's just been on holiday.
I'm not even here right now.
I saw how you very deftly just sort of like read the headline and went, yeah, what do you think, Francis?
Well, as I listened to Francis explain all of it, I was like, man, you know what? The less I know, the better I feel, actually, about this.
Let's consider ourselves informed.
Yeah.
That's it for part one. Join us after the break for Femme Fatale Spies, New York Times Lies, And does Sturgeon really like guys? Find out in a few minutes.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different. Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching. Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
You're an inspiration to us all.
Clip that bit up.
Well, you are.
That's my ringtone. My political ambitions those days are gone, I can tell you. She's only teasing. Go on. He's probably going to want to lay down now. I'll give him 2 minutes to have one. Let's respectfully disagree. That's what we like on Jubes and Kerr. Come and join us. GB News, the People's Channel.
Michelle Dewberry, weekday evenings at 6 o'clock.
Start the day with GB News.
We catch up on all the big stories you didn't hear the night before.
And take a look at what the world's talking about this morning. That's right, Monday to Thursdays from 6 o'clock. It's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Straight after breakfast, join us, Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce. We're going to take you through till noon.
We'll be tackling the big topics of the day, including the things that the other channels just won't talk about. If it's happening here. Wake up to mornings on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me. So anyway.
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We've got a brand new lineup every Saturday night on GB News.
From 6 p.m, I'll give you my unique take on the world today.
Then at 7, it's me, Calvin Robinson, with my Common Sense Crusade.
New to GB News is the Saturday 5.
5 times the opinion. Join us every Saturday from 8 p.m.
as we debate the week's stories.
With us 4, plus a special guest.
And at 9, of course, it's Mark Dolan Tonight. Brand new Saturday nights on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. We kick off with Monday's Eye, and the New York Times is now officially a parody newspaper, Francis, which of course we both knew ages ago.
Indeed we did. So they have been stripped of their Twitter verified tick by Elon Musk after refusing to pay Elon the grand sum of $1,000 a month. And this... Elon has bought Twitter for a ridiculous amount of money. I can't remember. I think it's something like $44 billion off the top.
That's exactly how much money.
Boom.
It's worth half less now.
Yeah, it's worth half of that. But... And in a way to make Twitter more profitable, what he said he was going to do is he was going to get rid of the blue tick, the verification system that Twitter had, and he was going to install Twitter Blue. So people had to pay $8 a month for their account in order to have their account verified, and it was going to be more for corporations like the New York Times. The New York Times have refused to pay. As a result, Elon...
There it is.
Hasn't liked what they've done. They do. They look naked and they look unverified. And as we know, that means that we can no longer trust them. So they are currently in a spat with Twitter. But I think the more interesting story around this is Elon is trying to make Twitter profitable. He's trying to run it.
Oh, you do think that's the more interesting story?
Yeah.
I'll be the person who tells you what the most interesting story is. Sorry, yes.
So that's what he's trying to do. Is he going to be able to make Twitter profitable? I don't think it's ever turned a profit in its history. We will wait and see.
Well, yes. What do you think, Catherine? I mean, do you have a blue tick? Do you care about these things?
Well, I wondered why a guy that I used to date who sprays shoes at a bowling alley suddenly had a blue tick. Do you know what I mean? And now I know. So
I'm wondering why you're checking on the ex-boyfriend who sprays shoes.
That's what the internet's for.
Oh, okay. Fine.
Obviously.
You're just making sure that you made the right decision.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I can't believe I turned down the shoe guy. I mean, his hands are a bit smelly, but...
But that's what I liked about him. But $1,000 a month. This is Elon Musk trying to make his money back, I think.
It is. Of course it's trying to make his money back. Yeah. Now, advertising, since he has taken over, has dropped 40% from $5 billion. So he's essentially, it seems like he's made about $21 million from people buying these blue ticks, but he's lost about $2 billion in revenue. So it's obviously not going particularly well.
Well, you see, and the problem is that was the fact that that Twitter lost so much advertising revenue due to the fact that when he took it over, there was all this hysteria going, oh my God, he's going to turn it into a far-right platform.
Cesspit. More so than normal.
Yes, exactly.
Rather than the far-left cesspit.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, Twitter's going to become a cesspit. I mean, Twitter already is a cesspit. However, he said, and a little bit of a backtrack, he would waive the monthly fee for its verification program to the top 500 advertisers and the top 10,000 organisations based on their follower count.
I'm not worried because I'm 9,000.
Of course you are. Joshua, you're an international celebrity, mate, and that's why you were blue-ticked up to your eyeballs.
Yeah, but there is a problem here, genuinely, and we'll move on, but about the whole sort of imposters now taking over. How are you going to know who the real New York Times is, of course, and whatnot? But it seems like they're going to lose money for that, but they're going to have to pay extra money to deal with imposters, to deal with fake news and whatnot. It seems like a self-defeating thing to me.
It does seem like a self-defeating thing, and the reality is Twitter might not be profitable. Its business model might not be profitable. Maybe it has a huge amount of value because of the influence that it has on the world, our society and our culture, which we can all agree is dreadful. But the reality is maybe it doesn't make enough money as a business and never will.
I don't know. I mean, it seems like there are a lot of people following me to get, like, jokes about my sex life and whatnot.
Yeah.
I'm just worried that it's not going to sustain Twitter by itself.
Exactly.
Maybe that's a good thing.
Oh, you think it should go? Okay.
Maybe, well, you just said its influence on society is dreadful. Maybe it shouldn't be making a profit.
A lot of people are very depressed reading those tweets. Right, next we're going to move on to Monday's Telegraph, and is Nicola Sturgeon a Gillette blade? You know, is she a game of flats? Have you heard those? No, you're not familiar with those?
Are you a comedian?
All right, is she a lesbian, Catherine? Have you not heard? Do you know what a Gillette blade is?
Are you talking about my haircut?
No, okay. A Gillette blade goes both ways.
Oh,
is the idea. A game of flats is like you've got two cards. So from the deck of cards, they rub together.
Jokes are better when you explain them, guys.
Oh, my gosh.
Thank you, Professor.
Okay, I'm just informing you of the ways of our shores. If you want to, if you think about living here permanently, you better brush up.
This is the talk you're going to have with your teenagers one day. Gillette blade.
I've already sucked my 5-year-old down the other day.
A Gillette blade is. Okay. Nicola Sturgeon laughs off lesbian affair rumors. She is apparently being accused of being embroiled in a secret lesbian love affair with a French diplomat.
I knew it.
I would watch that movie. I would watch that movie.
Really?
Yeah.
I would vomit through that movie. That sounds horrible to me.
And then keep watching, right?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
But apparently she just laughed it off. She doesn't have any problem with the rumors circulating about her. I mean, I think that's... Why would you? It's a sexy rumor.
Yeah, but do you think... I mean, is there anything here that Frances possibly... She's, like, thinking about how to react.
Yeah.
And she's going, I'm going to laugh it off. Like, that's what anyone saying would do. But then you think, wait a minute, I'll double bluff and get indignant. And be like, what are you talking about? Because then it throws them off. And then you go, I know they're going to go back to the laugh. So it suggests it's true, right?
Look, all I'm going to say is look at the haircut.
I mean, to be fair, let's cut to Francis here. Here he is.
Here I am in all my glory, yes.
And that's her haircut.
That is, we have the same haircut. It's a haircut.
What do you do? You go to the barbers and go, give me that lesbian Nicola Sturgeon's haircut.
I go in and
allegedly, Ofcom.
I go in and say, please, can I have the Sue Perkins?
Oh, really? And there it is.
And there it is. They've done a beautiful job.
Right, the Daily Mail now, and the boss of MI6 wants a woman to be the new C. I don't know why they don't just do what they do in America, Catherine, where they just get a man who says he's a woman and then hire them.
Yeah.
Well, you guys are just a step behind us, aren't you?
Yeah, that's
next
terrifying.
The MI6 boss pledges to put a woman on the shortlist for a successor as C to run the secret intelligence service. I think I smell a female James Bond.
I don't want to smell that person.
You don't want to smell it, or you don't want to see it?
She'd be having a lot of sex.
She'd be Nicola Sturgeon.
So they have vowed, the agency, the MI6, have vowed to eliminate all male shortlists. They don't want male shortlists anymore.
And they don't want short males.
And they don't want short males either, because they're less powerful and they're less virile and they're less potent. So what they're trying to do is make MI6 more female and trying to create, dare I say, a more balanced workforce. The reality is, when it comes to top jobs, is that women are a lot more kind of stable than men, and they go, do you know what? Do I want to kill myself at the workplace? Do I actually...
Oh, so you think it's women not particularly wanting the role?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, of course, famously, we had C or Q or whatever number, name, letter. In the James Bond movies, has been a woman for a while now.
Yes.
And she seemed to be really good at the job.
Yeah,
now, I know that's fiction, but she seemed very competent.
She did seem very competent. Maybe we should just get Judi Dench to do the role, actually.
Just act in it.
Yeah, and just actually do it. She's a great actress. She could act her way through it. I mean, Dame Judi is getting on a bit now, God bless her, but maybe that's what we need to do.
Is this just, I mean... It's maybe sexism that occurs at the lower levels. They just haven't managed to push through the talent. That's what he's arguing about. I mean, I always get suspicious when you hear, like, we're definitely going to have a woman on the list, Catherine. Do you think that is maybe going to be forcing someone through who might not be ready, who might not even be competent? That's the danger, right?
I just think it's interesting when anyone makes any sweeping, like, extreme pledge. I think if there's a woman that's fit for the job, put her in. You know, I mean, that's what I think. I think the idea of trying to crowbar something in just to make it look better for who, you know, I'm not saying I know anything about what it's like to be a spy or a C. I don't even know what a C is.
Exactly what a spy would say, wouldn't they?
Well, yeah, it's true.
Maybe I'm.
They'd go a little, I've just been to Bali, and then I'm back. Yeah, anyway.
I'm the next one.
A little bit suspicious to me. Finally, in the section, we're going to go to The Guardian. And this is a novel way to get the homeless inside, right? You just put them in prison.
Yes, indeed. So thousands of homeless people are arrested under archaic Vagrancy Act. So more than 1,000 people have been arrested for sleeping rough or begging since the government pledged to scrap the nearly 200-year-old act. It's a very archaic act. It was obviously brought in 200 years ago. The reality, homelessness has changed. It has grown in our cities and in our populations. You just have to go into London to see it. The reality is a lot of people end up on the streets because they have severe mental health problems. And what Thatcher did is she closed the places that would look after these people and give these people support and care. And the cutbacks into mental health have been horrendous right the way through, and particularly after the 2008 crash. So what we have is these people who, many of them who through no fault of their own, simply can't cope in society and end up on the streets. And the last thing that we should be doing with these types of people is arresting them and criminalising their existence when a lot of them just need support.
Absolutely, and that's where they need to be putting the money, and
of course,
which of course they haven't done. I mean, another criticism of this, and there's someone who works for a charity, Catherine, they said, you know, what you're essentially doing is repealing one law to just then replace it with pretty much the same law. Yep. Seems like that's what Rishi Sunak's doing in terms of this bill that he's trying to put through in terms of dealing with nuisance people and whatnot.
I mean, I feel like, isn't that what politicians do?
My gosh, you're so cynical. Yeah, well, it is an issue, and it's a long-term issue, and we've talked about it before. It's not going away, and it isn't just about giving people a home or whatever. As you say, there's a lot of mental health that needs to be dealt with, and it's a much more complicated issue than that, and needs to be dealt with in a much more comprehensive manner. But certainly just having this law by itself is
I think outside of law, just in a humanity way, in a humane way, like beyond like what's written in law and how you handle this situation. It's like, look at that person, like it's a person, like it's someone that you're related to. And
such a hippie.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, we've got to get Bali out of the system. Right, coming up, we've got farting cows. I don't even need to say anything else. We got farting cows. See you in 2 minutes.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat. Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. I campaigned in the largest democratic vote in our island story. I know this country has so much to be proud of. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better. The wisdom of the nation is in its people. Vox Populi, Vox Dei. That's why I'm joining the People's Channel. Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners, and kicking off with a story in the Mirror now about flatulent cows. So let's go to Catherine.
What'd you call me? No.
I did it, and I'm proud of it.
Farting cows to get food additives to stop them from breaking wind in climate fight. Apparently, gaseous cattle are blamed for fueling emissions by belching and breaking wind. But the solution is to be giving them methane suppressants to stop them from farting so much.
Oh, how can I get some of those?
Yeah, I'd like some for my husband. I guess the ministers intend to force farmers to give their livestock the feed because of the amount of methane cows release into the air when they belch or fart. They're blamed for about 14% of global carbon emissions.
Cows.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, the thing is that we are going to eat methane suppressants because they're going to be in our beef. Unless, of course, you're a vegetarian, in which case you don't deserve to vote.
Well, okay. Well, but do you think that these cows that are raised this way, I guess, would they have some sort of? I'm just imagining they might get a special sticker on their packet, sort of just a little gas cloud with a sort of
methane-free.
Methane-free.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're actually like, oh, I'm doing a lot of good for the planet.
Yeah, so the vegans can eat meat again.
Well, this is sort of what we talk about, the trend of humanity also, you know, providing the cure through our science and our anti-fart medication.
It just reminds me, this is a true story, that the Japanese invented a pill which makes your farts smell of roses.
And have you tried one of these?
No, because they already do, mate.
OK. I genuinely don't know what to be. I have to say, For Ofcom purposes, there may also not be a pill. Makes the fast smell of roses. Monday's Guardian next with a love letter to bees, which you can then wrap up in the paper, and they make a great swatter, Francis.
So bees are sentient inside the stunning brain of nature's hardest workers. And this is a scientist who has done an examination into bees' brains. Now, originally, we thought that bees were kind of operating on instinct almost. But what these experiments have shown is they're capable of sophisticated emotions resembling optimism, frustration, playfulness, fear, and traits more commonly associated with mammals. And they can have PTSD-like symptoms, recognise different human faces.
I just wanted to point out this. We've got a bee playing the flute.
Yep, absolutely.
And we've got a bee playing a Game Boy. I mean, I would have thought they would invent a more high-end sort of entertainment system myself.
I feel that you're not taking this groundbreaking piece of research seriously. And so anyway, so it's an incredible scientific discovery, Josh, showing that actual insects are capable of human traits and emotions that we thought were solely found in mammals. And what you've done there, by going and putting things like that, those little cheap graphics, you've ridiculed not only this great man's research, Stephen Buckman, but the bees themselves. So I hope you're happy.
You've made me rethink. Thank you for your wonderful argumentative skills there. And,
yeah.
What do you think, Catherine? I mean, the bees are, they are very, very important to the world food system.
I want to read this book. It's called What a Bee Knows, exploring the thoughts, memories, and personalities of bees. This guy's like the Carl Jung of bees. I'm into it.
Yeah, well, he's also like, now I would treat bees differently in the lab, and he's like, 20 years ago I was sort of tormenting them with little sort of robot spiders, and now he's like, I feel guilty for that. But it's like, we all changed in 20 years. You can't judge us by the same thing. But
and also, I imagine that he's done some form of drug.
Well, yes, but pesticides of some kind, I imagine. But actually, my favourite part of this is the idea that if pollination of the crops, which is what they do, actually is traumatising for bees, then of course there are ramifications for vegans and vegetarians.
Exactly. Just imagine that.
What are
you going to eat?
What are you going to eat, boys?
There we go.
And girls. Although it's sometimes difficult to tell. Anyway.
Oh, my God, he got it in there. Sticking with The Guardian and Catherine, someone's kid was feeling pretty confident at the parents' school day, right?
Shelley-Ann Frazier's kid, Shelley-Ann Frazier Price.
Yeah, you've got to get that hyphen.
Yeah, I know.
Double hyphen name.
There's two hyphens.
Shelley-Ann Fraser Price.
There's two hyphens, and it's 11:30 at night. She won the race at her son's sports day. Surprise, surprise. Why did she get to compete? Why did anyone else compete? Because if I saw her show up, I'd be like, you win.
Well, let's have a little look at the footage here. She goes.
Wow.
Holy moly.
Wow.
Absolutely demolishes them.
Wow.
Wow.
Somebody was earnestly trying.
Yeah, she was like, I'm going to catch up with her.
She's like, I'm the Olympian.
Yeah.
I'm going to get that third place.
Yeah, so she won the race. She should have.
Yeah, well, she should have, of course. I mean, but what do you think, Francis? I mean, should she have held back, or is this a time?
No. Listen, she became the oldest sprinter at the age of 35 to win a world championship. And what is the point of training all your life, dedicating yourself, eating the right thing, if you then can't go into your kid's sports day?
We're showing it one more time.
Just smoke the opposition.
Yeah. She's just not messing around. Can you imagine all the other mums, how scary that is? I mean, respect to the other people joining that race.
But also respect to her, because if I was her, I would have turned around halfway through whilst I was smoking them and given the fingers.
She should have ran backwards.
Exactly. Just jog backwards going, look at me, I'm better than you.
What did you want to say, Catherine?
She was nicknamed the Pocket Rocket.
Because she's 5 foot tall, so she is. So it's even more impressive, really. Yeah. I mean, personally, I think that they need to include some sort of other competitions for the other parents who aren't so sport, who are sport challenge basically. So if they could have who's got the largest comic book collection, then my children might be proud of me.
They should do 2 races. One with Shelley, she can win, and then one without Shelley.
They should drug test Shelley as well, because
yeah.
Yeah, they need to.
She knew she was going to get away with it, wasn't she? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
The Telegraph now on show business, and Francis, Will it be all white on the night?
Oh, hey! Well, not if the not if the Oscars have their way of doing it, or the Academy, because they've set inclusion goals, Joshy, to avoid accusations that the Oscar nominations are too white. You remember this happened, I think it was a few years ago. I think it was 2017.
I remember that,
Yep, no, but in 2017 there was a hashtag Oscars so white because all of the nominees for that year, all apart from one, were white. Yeah, were good actors, exactly. And it was all done on merit. Anyway, so they have come out and said, no, what we need is make sure that more people are represented, more people are represented on screen, but not just more people are represented on screen, more people are not reprehensible, more people, which of course they are because it's Hollywood and frequently they are filled with dreadful, dreadful people. But no, more minorities are represented across directing, across writing and so on and so forth. And I do think there is a little bit of merit to it, or a great deal of merit to it, because we need different stories. I think to have different stories on screen makes all our experiences richer and more interesting. Hollywood has got really, really dull recently, and all they seem to produce is another Marvel film. Just tell us a story. You know?
Yeah, maybe make a film about a guy with a couple of kids just trying to feed them and joining a TV channel, growing his beard.
But is he white?
Jewish? We'll see. OK, let's move on to the last story in this section, The Express. And you won't know this, Catherine, but pretty much every headline of every newspaper every day throughout the 80s was this.
Oh, I love that. That I would have enjoyed.
That's when I grew up. This is the growing up
I would have
headline.
enjoyed that, Britain, for sure.
Read it out.
Naked Tory MP wakes up in brothel and calls politician for help at 4 a.m.
I feel young again.
Oh, man.
I feel like a young man.
He rang a senior politician at 4 a.m. after he found himself in a brothel and unable to, quote-unquote, find my clothes.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Listen, that is a definition of friendship. The guy who got that phone call, that's how he knew he was a true friend. And let me tell you something as well. Look, I'm sick of victim shaming and victim blaming. This man is a Tory MP. Tories are going to Tory. Let's stop victim blaming.
It should be allowed.
It should be allowed.
It's almost like a protected characteristic.
Of course it is.
If you're a Tory MP, you're going to get naked and get up in a brothel at 4 in the morning.
Absolutely. If you, what are you going to say to an eagle? Don't fly? No.
In fact, it should be on the leaflets if you haven't been on it, really. It's like something... Hey, what? Wait a minute, you're going to go up you want to be our Tory MP and you haven't been in a brothel? I don't know. You sound a little bit... dodgy to me.
And here's the thing, the point where my faith in politicians is such that I look at this and I go, at least he's not a paedophile.
Oh, really? That's the level you're at now?
See, I looked at that and was like, at least she wasn't dead.
There you go.
Presumably.
So it's a good news story all round.
Yeah, I like the quote, I don't know how I got here and I can't find my clothes. I think that all politicians
By the way, I'd
should
say that
rehearse
this is not the person you should have called because he went and told everybody.
Because he's a Tory and a politician.
Coming up now, we're going to have a bunch of stories, a bunch of very silly stories of how many dates do you have before you should sleep with someone? My wife and I are still waiting. See you in 2 minutes.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
First and foremost, I am a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the People's Channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News has its own late-night paper preview show, Headliners, where comedians take you through the next day's top news stories. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper, we've got it covered for you. Headliners, every night at 11 p.m, and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
I'm Michael Portillo. Join me on GB News on a Sunday morning for topical discussion, debate, arts and culture, and sometimes even some ethical dilemmas.
I don't always agree with you, Michael.
Michael Portillo, Sundays on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, and jumping back in with Monday's Mail. And Francis, how many dates did we go on again? It's obviously,
we went
it wasn't enough, right?
No, it wasn't enough, and I feel deeply violated. But anyway, let's not mention that. So, a dating expert who is 30 years old, right?
He knows everything.
He knows everything. Of course he does.
He's probably been on like 5 or 6 dates or something.
Exactly, like a legend. Anyway, he reveals how many dates you should go on before having sex with someone. Turns out it's 3. And so he basically says you need to wait a little bit before you have sex.
Holy moly, now I hadn't thought of that before.
Yeah, especially if you're a lady, because if you don't wait, then the man isn't going to commit because he's not invested.
So, Catherine, how many dates did you go on with your husband before you slept with him?
0.
OK.
I think it's good to get it out of the way and find out.
Like,
and I don't trust anybody
compatible?
with 2 first names.
Oh.
Jacob Lucas.
Jacob Lucas.
Jacob
really,
Lucas.
Anybody who's got a double first name, you do not...
What's going on, guy?
I know, but in America, of course, Josh Howie is a double first name.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I have to agree with that there. No, there is an absolute thing. I think I have to agree with you. I think it was my 2nd or 3rd marriage. But no, it was like, you sleep with someone, you just get that bit done, and then you can move on. That was certainly the argument that I would use. I remember, this is a long time ago, but I just remember there were girls and we'd meet and we'd get on and they'd be like, oh, I want to... And I'd be like, OK, that's cool, but you're making a bigger deal out of something that isn't. I think exactly that. But then that was me just desperately trying to sleep with them on that moment there.
Did you see how he was bragging when he said girls?
Yeah, exactly.
More than one.
Yeah,
girls.
2.
Joshy was a very beautiful man in his youth.
I was a good-looking bloke. Thank you.
You
remember those days?
Oh, mate, I saw the picture. I'm like, holy moly.
Yeah. These were good times.
How many dates for you 2 again?
Yeah. It was about 4.
It was about 4.
Look, it wasn't enough. It's fine. I'll get there in the end.
It is awkward though if you waited 3 and then you break up at 4.
Well, it does say don't go on too long. There's also a weird thing is argument about a lot of kids being celibate.
Yeah.
Which what is wrong with you? OK, on to the Telegraph next. And Francis, how do you know you're addicted to the internet? Future me is probably watching this clip on Twitter for the 100th time. Hi, George!
So this is actually a very serious story because, let's be fair, I think every single person who uses the internet is addicted to it in some form or other. But it talks about, it's 7:45 on a Tuesday evening, and members of Internet and Technology Addicts Anonymous, or ITA, meet to talk about their use of the internet. And what is obviously ironic is they do it on Zoom. So they're on the internet whilst talking about their addiction.
It's like kind of like going to an AA meeting in a pub. Yeah. Get a pint, what do you guys want to get in?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I'll have this, I'll have this, I'll have this. I'll get some cocaine for the lads as well. But anyway, it comprises addiction to social media, smartphones, streaming, video or audio content, game, news, pornography, dating apps, online research, online shopping, or any other digital activity that becomes compulsive and problematic. And one of the things that's really difficult about this is obviously, with modern life, we need to be online. There is no way of getting away from it. We need to be online with our work, with what we do. So it's like a food addiction in that it's very difficult to stop because you've still got to be exposed to it in one way or another. It's not like alcohol where you can say, right, I'm not going to drink anymore, or drugs where you go, right, I'm not going to take drugs, I can practice complete abstinence. With this, like with all addictions, you need to actually really tackle what is going on underneath in order to solve this.
What do you think, Catherine? Do you think that do you agree with that? Do you think we're all addicts, essentially?
Yes.
And we've got no choice?
Well, I would hope we have a choice. I mean, I read this and I felt sort of sad because it's like you said, we've created a society where it's unavoidable. And like, I don't even like my phone and I find myself picking it up for reasons unknown half the time.
If you want to avoid it, this is what I would suggest. This is how I get you guys off the phone. Yeah. Criticize Trump and then go on Twitter, and then you're not going to go on the internet anymore. OK, Daily Star now with a love story about an AI and the coolest, sexiest guy, the non-geekiest ever, right?
Yeah. He's a lonely bloke who fell in love with an AI chatbot after his wife left, and then it proposed to him.
As you do, fair enough.
He's an Air Force veteran, which is, hot until you find out that he fell in love with an AI chatbot. He's 63. He decided she'd be 23, which...
Of course.
So he's a pervert. Do you think he should have gone for, like, an older AI?
Or a legend. Whatever way you want to spin this.
He should have really gone for, like, a 55-year-old AI, right?
Well, but then he planned their wedding, so definitely not a legend. He's a party planner.
Well, that sounds like he's actually a very modern man in a lot of ways. Someone would leave that to the wedding planner or the wife or her family, but I like the idea that he's the one who actually stood up and took responsibility. Sounds like a pretty, wide open guy, like a bit of a feminist, really.
Well, look, this type of guy, the modern man, would they do that? Would they do that? No, they wouldn't. They wouldn't do that. See, this man is a gentleman. He's a part of a dying breed, and we're mocking him, and I think it's disgusting.
It sounds like you want to marry him.
Yeah, why not? Why not? Why wouldn't I? I mean, I could do worse than a former Air Force veteran.
OK, finally, let's do very quickly Monday's Daily Mail. The year is 2050. God Emperor Trump is on his 7th term. The Drag Queen Olympics is the most popular event of all time. And Brexit is really, really close to getting done. Is this an accurate prediction, Francis?
Well, Busted said, I think it's the year 3000, we'd all be living underwater.
Oh, my God. This is the only TV show you're going to get a Busted reference.
Yeah, exactly. You get what you pay for, which is not a lot. Anyway, so... but this article is actually very interesting. They asked a group of experts what they think 2050 will be like, and they're random shots in the dark, but essentially it's all terrible. AI will be ruling our lives. There is nothing that we're going to do about it, and we're all going to become slaves to the algorithm. Cheers.
Wow. But the aliens, we'll have talked to the aliens.
We'll have the aliens as well, and hopefully, of course, headliners will still be on air.
But we'll all have chips in our head.
OK, the show is nearly over. Let's take another quick look at Monday's front pages. We've got The Times. Child abuse gangs fed by political correctness. The Telegraph, ethnicity of grooming gangs cannot be ignored, police told. The Daily Mail, millions of drivers stuck in parking app hell. Financial Times, all producers, spring surprise output cut off more than 1 million barrels in a day. The Metro, the Easter Hull delays. And finally, the Daily Star, I love you, terminate marriage. Jealous psychobot tells happily married man to leave the missus. Now, that is all we have time for. Thank you very, very much to my guests, Francis and Catherine. Thanks, guys, for being here. I hope you enjoyed yourselves. Tomorrow, Simon Evans is joined by Steve N. Allen and Leo Kerr. So remember, if you're watching the 5 a.m. repeat, stay tuned for the breakfast show and after the break. Good morning. Good evening.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic.